We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Pixar chief Docter defends removing queer themes from Elio, citing concerns about young audiences and parental conversations.
Donald Trump vows to block new legislation unless the SAVE Act advances, adding demands targeting transgender rights and stricter voter rules.
Pornhub limits adult content access in Australia ahead of strict age verification rules, part of global efforts to restrict minors' exposure online.
Representative Darrell Issa will not seek re-election, opening a newly Democratic-leaning California district that includes LGBTQ popular Palm Springs with multiple out candidates.
HBO Max's Brazilian drama Madame Beja sparks LGBTQ buzz online with queer romances and a viral garden encounter drawing global attention.
All this important LGBTQ plus news and more this evening on Queer News Tonight. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 12 million views. We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our rainbow family. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, March 10th, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots magazine Happening Out television network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but created for the LGBTQ community. Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots magazine and Happening Out television network. Hotspots Happening Out is a proud beneficiary of the 2026 Florida AIDS Walk, standing strong by our healthcare pillar. If you are in Fort Lauderdale on March 21st, we all invite you to join us at the Florida AIDS Walk. Register with our team at www.faw.lgbt.
In 2026, our magazine is celebrating 41 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 14,000 LGBTQ television stories. We present South Florida's major LGBTQ events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fete. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2026, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this table and share their voice as our anchors. Together, we host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet this evening's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Patrik Gallineaux. With a passion for advocacy and inclusivity, Patrik is dedicated to fostering connections and promoting positive change within the LGBTQ plus community and beyond. He founded Dancing with the Drag Stars in 2009, raising funds for HIV/AIDS support. He's on the board of the new Gray Box Theater here in Wilton Manors and is also a columnist, charity event producer, and most recently, this past summer, he helped create and host the new national drag competition, if the shoe fits. Welcome to the show, Patrik.
Thank you, Jeff.
I hope the shoe fits.
Me too.
Let's welcome anchor Brian Bender. Brian is a lifelong South Floridian, Broward County teacher, community volunteer and leader, and on the Education Advisory Board in Fort Lauderdale. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to discuss the queer news.
All the queer news that fits.
And of course, now let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Jeff Oliverio. Jeff is the founder and president of the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council and serves as co-chair for the past 5 and next year's 2027 6th annual amazing My Hollywood Pride, which I believe has earned the City of Hollywood a perfect 100 on the HRC City Equality Index. Jeff also serves on the Save Gala Committee. Jeff is a director and, certified financial planner with Truist Wealth based in Fort Lauderdale. Welcome to this show, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for the recognition for the City of Hollywood on our 5 years of having our perfect equality 100 score for the Municipal Equality.
Well deserved.
What?
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up entertainment. Pixar defends cutting queer themes from movies. Pixar's chief creative officer, Pete Docter, is defending the decision to remove queer storylines from the studio's 2025 film, Elio. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Docter said the studio wanted to avoid putting parents in situations where they might have conversations with young children that they are not ready to have. He said, quote, "We're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy," end quote. The animated film originally featured scenes suggesting the main character's budding queer identity, but those moments were removed during production after early audience testing and leadership concerns. Director Adrian Molina left the project in 2023. Scenes reportedly cut include one where the young protagonist turns collected trash into a fashionable pink tank top, and another involving a possible male crush. According to reporting from The Hollywood Reporter, a Pixar editor in the company's LGBTQ affinity group said she was saddened and aggrieved by the changes, while another source claimed the studio was sanding down queer moments. Pixar also canceled a planned film titled Be Fry and reportedly instructed teams working on Inside Out 2 to make the movie less gay and avoid queer themes. Later, parent company The Walt Disney Company cut a transgender storyline from its animated series Win or Lose. You know, the thing about Pixar is they've been floundering in recent years. They don't have an identity. So now they're kind of crowdsourcing their themes. And if we look across their best material, whether it's Toy Story or many other stories, there have always been what we would have considered things below the surface that were registering that were LGBTQ themes. So it's interesting that, they're making this conscious effort to completely erase that, at a time when their films have such less popularity than ever, and it's also, Disney in general, kind of floundering in that space and trying to not figure out where they want to be. Do they want to be LGBTQ supportive? Do they not? They went after the governor here in Florida and that didn't work out so well for them. And now, the new CEO came back and has kind of whitewashed the company again.
I thought it was particularly offensive when he said something about we're not doing hundreds of millions of dollars in therapy. Why would showing a queer character with a wonderfully amazing pink tank top and a budding crush on, somebody of the same sex, why would that cause anybody to need hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy, or why large audiences can't handle that? I think really that was very tone deaf for the times that we're living in. And I think that he's pandering to, I don't know if it's maybe the people that are funding, Pixar, or the administration. They don't want to be canceled. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't read very nicely in terms of...
And that's the whole lens it's coming from, though, isn't it? It's an inability to understand that for a child who is born LGBTQ+, it's not therapy for them. It's joy. It's what every little child deserves to have.
To see themselves.
To see themselves. And I'm sorry, if you're going to pick up a piece of trash and make a pink tank top, and I've done it at all ages, it's going to happen, right? It just may as well we may as well give kids the opportunity to feel that joy as early as possible. And that's what that guy's denying.
This worries me because I do believe the Walt Disney Company owns Sesame Street, right? Or they own the rights to some of the characters from Sesame Street.
Is Big Bird Disney princess now?
And this could really spell trouble for Bert and Ernie.
Oh, God. They're going to have to not cohabitate anymore.
They may have to move
No,
out.
I mean, they already sleep in different beds, though, don't
they?
they?
Well,
That's what happens after you've been married for a very long time.
Okay.
You sleep in separate beds, slept
just
in
like
separate
straight
rooms.
gays, they're just like straight people.
They really are. Absolutely.
I'm Patrik Gallineaux, and let's queer up politics. Trump demands SAVE Act with anti-trans additions before signing any other laws passed by Congress. President Donald Trump says he will not sign any new legislation unless Congress first passes the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, widely known as the SAVE Act, with additional provisions targeting transgender people. The bill, which would significantly tighten voter registration requirements in the United States, has already passed the U.S. House of Representatives and is currently awaiting approval in the U.S. Senate. On his platform, Truth Social, Trump said, quote, "Go for the gold, must show voter ID and proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for military, illness, disability, travel. No men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization for children. Do not fail, 3 exclamation points, unquote. The SAVE Act would require voters to present photo identification to register for federal elections. Those without ID could be required to provide documents such as a birth certificate. Voting rights advocates argue the measure could impact tens of millions of eligible voters who may not have access to those documents. Neither the anti-trans issue mentioned in Trump's post currently appears in the bill's text at all. Any such measures would need to be added through amendments and then approved again by both chambers of Congress. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer, leader of Senate Democrats, strongly criticized the legislation, calling the bill, quote, Jim Crow 2.0, unquote. Schumer wrote on Twitter, quote, "Senate Democrats will not help pass the SAVE Act under any circumstances," unquote. He also warned of total gridlock in the Senate if Trump refuses to sign other legislation. Well, I mean, at best, this is just some of the most tone-deaf incompetence I've ever seen. At the worst, it's what it probably is, and it's our cheater-in-chief once again attempting to steal elections in the form of the midterms later this year. I mean, I am so grateful that I get to travel and that I have a passport, and I'm sure present company included. But, those same people that are championing Trump because the Dow is up lack complete empathy because they don't know what it's like to not have $100 plus, let alone to get a passport, but to be able to have the privilege to get on a plane and see the world. And I think part of this too, is just dumbing down the populace to keep them from voting, right?
And it's already been proven that there's a lot of his own voters that would be disenfranchised.
So it could backfire, do you think?
Because I mean, again, if you look at the red states and the population of who has passports and rural areas that voted for him, those are a lot of people that may not have access to that same documentation. So on top of it, being restrictive for everyone, especially, but it's his own voters that it could
his own voters,
which is why Republicans, I don't think it'll pass in the Senate because I think Republicans also know that, first of all. But I think the bigger issue here is how he just kind of Tourette syndrome out the trans thing during a press conference about the war.
I was going to say it sounded like a word salad mixed with word vomit. It was like transgendered, pass the bill, go for the gold.
The war questions aren't going good, so bring up transgender. It's like a button somebody pushed. They zapped him.
Right.
While he was at the podium.
Complete distraction. Did someone say Epstein files?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then using the word that That's not a word. Mutilization.
No.
Go back to our teacher here. That is not a word.
It is not a word, but I do want to, it does follow some rules of English that he made it mutilization. I mean, it sounds like it should be a word, but it's not a word.
Yes.
And it's awful that he's insinuating that gender affirming care is mutilization. But, you know, just from a historical point of view, what happens with Republicans is he knows that his base is highly motivated and highly mobilized. He doesn't care if he loses 10, 15, 20% of that base if they can't get access to a passport, their birth certificate, their birth records, things like that. What he knows for sure is that Democrats are unmotivated by and large to vote. So if he knocks off the Democrats, doesn't get as many Republicans, but gets all of his Republicans that are already in his base, that are solidly in his base, it's a win-win for him. So it sounds counterintuitive, but it's really not if you're thinking about it clearly and looking at the voting patterns. He knows that there are going to be people that will live and die by Donald Trump. So they are going to vote for him. They will get a passport. They will find their birth certificate. They will do what they need to do. The ones that can't do that, they just won't vote for him. They'll still support him. He won't get the vote on paper. He'll still have the broad support. And it's a win for him because he knows Democrats are not going to mobilize unless we pull off a miracle. And anybody out there, if you haven't voted, go get registered to vote. It seems like you're going to need your birth certificate. Make some plans to talk to your mom or your dad or whoever it is that, you know, might know how to get that for you. Look it up. We need you. You know, our democracy depends on it.
And did you see yesterday he stood at a lectern and literally said, now this isn't why I'm doing this, but the only way we're going to win Republicans, the midterms, is if this passes. He told everyone what he's going to do. And I'll tell you, the only way I would support, forget about the trans stuff, that's ridiculous for that to be in there, but the only way I would support requiring a passport would be if there were also legislation that provided funding for every person in this country that doesn't have one and has never traveled with a plane ticket to go somewhere in the world and see another culture. Because I guarantee once people did and actually experienced how wonderful the world is, they wouldn't be voting for Donald Trump ever again.
I am not poo-pooing what you're saying at all, but one of the vocabulary words that I taught my students today in our book is idealism. And the definition of idealism is thinking that the world can be a better place than it already is through the actions that we take. So I absolutely love your idealistic spirit. I think that is a wonderful idea. More Americans should get out there. I think they did a study where it was, I don't want to make up false numbers, but it was shockingly low, the amount of Americans that have not traveled internationally or even gone to like the Bahamas. I don't even consider that international, even though it is. You know, even if you do that, even if it's just a day trip to the Bahamas for the first time, you're not technically in the United States anymore. You get to kind of feel what the air is like.
Yeah, it's very unusual. Yeah. It's not very unusual for many people across the country. I was on a cruise once and I met a woman that was looking out at the ocean. We were doing the sail away and she's like, oh my God, the ocean is so beautiful. We were in Miami and I said, yeah. And she's like, I've never seen the ocean before. And she was like 60. And I was like, you've never seen the Atlantic Ocean? Because I was like, where are you from? She says, Oklahoma. So I thought, maybe have you been to she was like, no, I've never been to the ocean. So not even out there. So she was leaving the country on a cruise, but she had never seen the ocean before. So that was shocking to me.
I love that you got to share that moment with her.
Yeah, like she said it out loud and I looked at her and I was like, oh yeah, I said, I live here. And she was like, oh my God, I can't imagine she had never seen the ocean. So so not alone going to another country, she had never seen the ocean.
I grew up on Lake Erie near Buffalo and I couldn't understand why we were told to color water blue. I was like, it's all brown with green lumps in it, a dead fish. So when I saw the ocean for the first time,
wow.
But that was not at 60 then.
I'm Brian Bender and let's queer up the worldview. Pornhub restricts access in Australia ahead of age verification rules, citing privacy and safety concerns. Access to Pornhub, the world's largest adult video content site, is currently restricted for users in Australia. The change comes as the country prepares to introduce stricter age verification regulations aimed at reducing children's exposure to harmful online material. Pornhub's parent company, Elio, which also operates RedTube, YouPorn, and Tube8, has begun limiting access for Australian users. While the site remains partially available, only non-explicit, safe for work content is currently available. The restriction arrives ahead of new rules from the Australian Safety. According to reports, ILO confirmed its video sharing platforms will, quote, access to adult materials before the deadline on March 9th, end quote. Under Phase 2 of the regulation, websites hosting pornographic or age-restricted material must implement systems verifying users' ages, including facial age estimation, digital identity wallets, or photo identification. Non-compliant companies could face fines of up to $49.5 million per breach. Similar restrictions have already appeared in the United Kingdom and across multiple U.S. states, including right here in Florida, where VPN usage surged after access to Pornhub was blocked. I am neither going to confirm or deny that I have access to a VPN, because that would be none of your business and none of the state's business. But I also want to say it's a good idea to protect children against pornography. It's the problem I have is when things that are not pornographic are labeled as pornographic. And not to take us off topic, but I think it's all part of the same umbrella. We could all be for protecting children against things that are inappropriate for them, for sure. I don't want children to see some of the things that I have seen online. I don't want other adults to see that either, actually. Yeah. So I get that. But when you start saying that drag queens are pornographic, and when you start saying that certain speech is pornographic, and when you start saying that learning about a person's body is pornographic, it's a very slippery slope. And that's the only thing I'm going to say. If they're doing this in good faith, which I have no reason to think that Australia wouldn't be. They seem to be quite progressive. So I want to think that they've really thought this out, and they're not like us in certain sectors of the country where they just kind of make knee-jerk religious decisions for the rest of us. I want to think that this is really well thought out, and hopefully this doesn't lead to censorship.
Well, and it's an umbrella, isn't it, for all types of pornography. Sure. It's not just LGBTQ+, but that's a good point, that there are some people who might enact this sort of legislation who unfortunately sexualize everything LGBTQ+, and there's sexuality in most everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think many social media platforms are going to age verification. I mean, the technology was way ahead of the legislation that's out there to protect children. I know that there was a story a few years ago where those like cartoon stories that were on YouTube for kids, and then they were scrolling through them, and then all of a sudden they turned to the cartoons were murdering each other, just like a slippery slope that these kids were going and there's no content filter there. So I think it's good. I mean, we all grew up at a time where, cable TV and things I'm 22 years old. What are you talking restricting about? Access for different times of the day and things like that. So, I mean, I don't think this is anything that's shocking, but I do think that the technology is so rapidly changing that they need to implement something, absolutely. For many reasons, not just pornography.
It was a bummer when I tried to access some of my reading material, but I understood it, and I didn't want to do that, so I may or may not have gotten a VPN. I had to do what you got to do. I just tried it.
I'm Patrik Gallineaux, and let's queer up gay culture. Brazil's Madame Beja sparks buzz with queer storylines and viral garden hookup scene on HBO Max. A Brazilian period drama is quickly becoming a talking point among LGBTQ viewers online. The HBO Max series, Madame Beja, which premiered last month, is gaining attention for its queer storylines and a steamy garden set encounter that recently went viral. The telenovela reimagines the 1986 series Dona Beja, based on the real-life story of Ana Jacinta de São José. In the series, Ana, played by Grazi Massafera, is kidnapped by a royal court officer and held for more than 2 years. After escaping and returning to her hometown of Araxá, she finds her fiancé married to another woman and faces judgment from conservative society. Determined to reclaim her independence, Ana reinvents herself as Madame Beja and opens the upscale brothel Chácara do Jatobá. Running alongside her story is Fortunato, played by João Villa, a young man from a powerful family who struggles with his sexuality while preparing for an arranged marriage. His storyline drew major online attention after a recent episode showed him finally acting on his feelings. The series also includes other queer characters, including a trans confidant and a same-sex romance involving Madame Beja herself. The USA audience can watch the series on HBO Max. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm exhausted just reading that. I dated a Brazilian from Rio de Janeiro for 2 years, and that sounds about like my 2 years right there. Okay. But it's good. When it's horrible, it's wacky. And the drama, you are never bored with Brazilian culture, I'll tell you.
If you're Brazilian and watching this, we weren't talking about you, just your friend.
Yes.
It's interesting, HBO has heated rivalry is on HBO. Mm-hmm. We just had a rather gay storyline on the other show. I just lost the name of it. That's playing right now. Now we have this, but they're going through this merger now with Paramount, which is a close friend to the administration. So you wonder if HBO Max is HBO itself is going to continue these queer themed stories, especially where they have to get approval for this for the merger. So there's it's interesting that literally HBO has surpassed Netflix and everybody else of heated rivalry alone is a international sensation right now. So it's interesting that this is at a time when they're going through this merger with a parent buying, the Skydance and the Ellison family is very close to the Trump administration.
Right. I really hope that they stick to their deep roots of being progressive, positive, and to be honest, even looking at our story about Pixar earlier, this content on HBO Max is far more engaging.
Absolutely.
And it's so well done. They would lose money if they were to reverse course.
So I agree with you 100%, Patrik. What I understand about how these things get picked up on HBO Max, on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, is that this is probably, and it's above my pay grade to do any research, I've said that before, so I'm just conjecturing here that this is actually a local show that is made for the Brazilian audience in Brazil. So I believe that HBO is working as the distributor and the platform. So I don't think that it's being made specifically for HBO. HBO purchased the rights to air it on their platforms. So I have a feeling that even if HBO decided that they were no longer going to be woke, as the MAGA Republicans like to call it, perhaps it would have another distributor and you could catch it somewhere else. Because I believe in Brazil they have a more, it's a deeply Catholic country, nothing wrong with, being a Catholic, but it's a little bit more conservative, although from the many Brazilian people that I have known and loved in my life, you know who you are. I know that Brazil does have quite a very strong queer culture, and I don't think what we heard about today is necessarily going to be groundbreaking for them. I don't think that this is the first time that audiences in Brazil have been exposed to queer culture. Maybe in the United States, we're taking a few steps backward, but in Brazil, they're accustomed to it. So they might lose distribution in the United States. It'll hopefully get picked up by somebody else if HBO can't run with this anymore.
Yeah, the content providers, it'll be Paramount, HBO, which will be, then Netflix has also drastically cut back on their LGBTQ programming. They just canceled that military story that was Boots was the one that it one season only, and it was very popular. It had a lot of... We
talked about it at the table here.
Yeah, and then the other platform is Disney. So you look across for American audiences, where are those storylines going to be told? It could be a big change with this merger.
Well, the good news is, gentlemen, we've already confirmed on this show tonight that we all three have passports and we can all be on a direct flight
and
to Rio de Janeiro.
And some of us have VPNs to watch things overseas.
It was a free trial, viewers. All right. And I did not renew the free trial.
I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up politics. Darrell Issa steps down, opening Palm Springs area House race for multiple LGBTQ plus Democrats. California U.S. Representative Darrell, a longtime Republican representing San Diego area districts, announced Friday that he will not seek re-election, opening a newly redrawn congressional seat that now leans toward Democrats, including many LGBTQ candidates. Issa, 72, said the decision followed reflection on his decades in business and public service. Issa endorsed Republican County Supervisor Jim Desmond as his successor, calling him a true patriot. In a February 2025 Facebook post, the group San Diego Drag March for Trans Rights accused the Republican hopeful of supporting efforts backing federal legislation that would bar transgender women and girls from participating in women's sports. The race centers on California's newly reconfigured 48th Congressional District, which spans parts of San Diego and Riverside counties. A voter-approved redistricting plan shifted the once safely Republican district to one where Democrats now hold about a 4-point registration advantage. The changes also added the liberal desert city of Palm Springs, known for its large LGBTQ+ population. It is no wonder that more than a dozen candidates have filed to run for the districts, most of them Democrats. Some of the names included Marnie von Wilpert, Amar Kampa-Najir, Stephen Clemens, Ferguson Porter, and gay tech entrepreneur Brandon Riker. Well, listen, California answered the call and did redistricting, and this is the result of it. Is now we have a district that that is going to lean now.
Thanks,
of
Texas.
course, there's no guarantee that will lead to a Democratic district, but I do think they're seeing that their efforts, and even in some of the Republican redistricting places where they think that they have made those decisions, not in California, in other states, they're saying that there's possibility that the way that the voters or the voter turnout or the candidates, like they didn't look at the candidates, like a candidate who's really popular, whether it's a Democrat or someone else, like has name recognition. Like they said that there's a lot of these cases where it could even go against them in Republican leaning.
Backfire.
Could. And again, there was,
only pray.
Yeah, watched a news story about it, but this will be interesting. And I mean, that's a lot of candidates. It'll be a fun primary.
They all have wonderful names.
They do, and it's making me think, is there a drag queen in Palm Springs named Gerrymandering?
That would be great.
Yeah.
She should run.
She should totally run.
In heels.
Yes. And a tube top made out of garbage.
Absolutely. LGBTQ 1-minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. Hotspots magazine previews Broadway hit Hell's Kitchen. Our Hotspots Happening Out lifestyle magazine, Hotspots, is back with a feature on the Broadway sensation Hell's Kitchen, coming to the Broward Center for the Performing Arts from March the 10th through March 22nd. Featuring music by Alicia Keys and a book by Christopher Diaz, the award-winning musical follows 17-year-old Allie as she searches for freedom, passion, and her place in the world. Hailed by the New York Times as, quote, thrilling from beginning to end, a rare must-see, end quote, the show has already earned 2 2025 Tony Awards and a Grammy for Best Musical Theater Album. This feature story and many more are included in your free copy of the upcoming issue of Hotspots magazine on stands this Thursday, March the 12th. I have not seen Hell's Kitchen. Have you?
I've lived in Hell's Kitchen, but I have not seen this show.
I couldn't afford to live in Hell's Kitchen, but I've spent some time there.
I heard.
No,
I didn't hear.
Did you hear?
No, I have not.
It was a good time for me.
But I heard the show is it's an amazing show, and it's the music of Alicia Keys. So
yes.
It's a great story. So and then you can read all about it in Hotspots on March the 12th.
Love that. LGBTQ 1-minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. Mysterious fire destroys LGBTQ landmark The Quest. Community mourns the loss. A mysterious fire destroyed The Quest, a decades-old LGBTQ nightclub in Birmingham, Alabama, around 10 p.m. this past Thursday. Firefighters battled the blaze, and officials say no injuries were reported. Authorities are still investigating the cause. The bar, which opened in 1982, had closed in 2024 after the city revoked its license for not taking enough measures to keep the bar safe after, unfortunately, there were 2 murders inside. While the business stopped operating, the building remained standing. Its colorful exterior mural seen there showed the name of the bar, with each letter colored by the stripes of different LGBTQ+ flags. Well, it's a neat place. I mean, it's
in Birmingham.
It's in Birmingham, Alabama. I would have
for it.
Yeah, I mean, I like places. I guess you would call them like our dive gay bars, and I find them fascinating because that's what our bars were, right?
Yeah,
they
they
were
not mainstream.
They were not mainstream. They did not have windows. The windows were dark out, and they were often in the middle of the boondocks, right? And you had to really drive a long way to get there.
True.
So I would have loved to have seen it before it closed for the history that it
As
represents.
the kids say, heard. Thank you for giving me that perspective, because I looked at that and I was like, that wouldn't be a place that I would necessarily feel comfortable, not just because there were 2 murders there, not just because they weren't keeping the bar safe enough, but also just because it looks a little...
Grunge.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make the mural pop even more?
Yeah, the mural.
Right? So you got to look at it.
Yeah.
But
give and take with that.
I guess it'll be interesting to see what the findings are of what the cause of the fire, because again, you only have to go right to the idea that somebody was trying to burn the bar down because it was a gay bar, even though it was closed, which could really point to the research that the person did on burning the bar, who tried to burn the bar down,
Right.
if
Like,
it was caused by someone.
Jeff, you have such a doom and gloom perspective on these
mean,
stories today.
You're very idealistic. We were talking about this word earlier off camera. You're idealistic that they're actually going to have an investigation. You really think they're going to have an investigation in Alabama?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Maybe their CSI crew is not out there.
I don't think so.
I'm just going to twirl my pink
I
feather.
think that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, hopefully Birmingham, hopefully there's another gay bar out there for you to frequent.
They are important.
Yes.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the USA View. Megyn Kelly's homophobic rant against Megyn Rapinoe draws attention online. Right-wing commentator and former Fox News host Megyn Kelly launched a homophobic tirade against former U.S. soccer star Megyn Rapinoe after Rapinoe criticized the USA men's hockey team for visiting the White House and, quote, ogling, end quote, the president. Kelly said, quote, the nerve of this extremely homely woman to call these guys clowns. She's like a rabid, angry lesbian, end quote. She also accused Rapinoe of hypocrisy for visiting the White House after the 2015 World Cup tournament with Barack Obama. Kelly said, quote, it's only controversial when it's President Trump, you see. She's jealous. They're in the spotlight and she's not, end quote. Well, all I really want to say about Megyn Kelly is she needs to take a position and really stick with it. She is the queen of flip-flops. I watch a lot of internet commentary at night. My ADHD, I can only watch things that are about, 5 minutes to 10 minutes at the most. And I go down really deep rabbit holes at night because I can't sleep, because of my ADHD medication. So because of that, I learn a lot of things about a lot of people that I don't really care about too much. And one of them is Megyn Kelly. And Megyn Kelly is just somebody that is very inconsistent. She is constantly chasing the spotlight. She's constantly shape-shifting. First she's for something, then she's against something. And on top of that, she doesn't even really have very good hot takes. I know that I was a little off topic. That was just my rant about Megyn Kelly. I use this as an opportunity to just talk some smack about her, but I just want to say not nice. And you know what? Megyn Rapinoe, you're completely right. The way that they were, ogling and all of that, and, to be called a rabid something, whatever, lesbian, Megyn Kelly, you gotta,
Megyn Rapinoe's a champion.
Yeah.
Is a champion. Who cares what Megyn Kelly's saying?
Oh my
gosh.
She short-circuited
Megyn
my
Kelly, as
brain
you said,
because
is
it's
just
crazy.
desperate for attention and desperate for relevancy. And it's comical that she's saying that Megyn Rapinoe is jealous because she's not in the spotlight.
Right?
When Megyn Kelly has been relegated to this, whatever, I don't even know what you call this show. It's
She's on her own. She does
online.
online.
And, she was fired from the Today Show, from the biggest job she ever had. And she's been pathetic and desperate ever since to get attention. And so what she does, and then she became Donald Trump's bootlicker after he insulted her. And then she realized her only claim to fame would be to please Donald Trump. So now she flip-flopped on Donald Trump and now is, a MAGA, right-wing, conspiracy theorist, anti-trans, anti-everything follower of Donald Trump. So the person that's desperate for the spotlight is clearly Megyn Kelly.
And there you have it.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's my rebuttal.
And now it's time for LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up gay culture. World's largest LGBTQ plus comic convention, FlameCon, announces 2026 dates and moves to Times Square venue. FlameCon, the world's largest LGBTQ plus comic convention, has announced its 2026 dates and a major move to the heart of the Big Apple, Manhattan. The event will take place August 15th and 16th at the Marriott Marquis, New York in Times Square, offering more space for panels and the popular Artist Alley as attendance grows. Tickets are now on sale, with Youth Day on August 16th offering a free admission for fans 21 and under. More details will be available on flamecon.org. Well, anything with the name Flame in it, and I'm there. Have any of you gentlemen been to anything like Comic-Con?
I've been to BravoCon.
You've been to BravoCon.
What's BravoCon?
Bravo.
For the Bravo.
The Housewives.
Oh, that's the kind of con I
And
want.
I went to the one in Miami that was here last year. So
Fun. Well, I just love that there are basically clubs for everyone, and I
Yes.
think it is nice. Even though, as you know, we were chatting earlier, and you were, Jeff, pointing out that Comic-Con itself is already very gay friendly, and Brian, you were agreeing. But thinking about it, I think it's really cool that we, as the queer community, have our own opportunity, because we do have our own spin that we
spin on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I just think it's adorable when you have a place for people. I mean, and they're gearing this toward fans 21 and under, and then, the broad spectrum of ages. But the fact that they have, room for everybody under the tent, under the Comic-Con or FlameCon tent, I think that's wonderful. I work with, teenagers now, and I see how fun and kooky and wonderful their style is. And I have students that wear 100 pins on their clothing and 100 bracelets and necklaces. And that's kind of what I'm imagining here with this FlameCon.
Sure.
And I just think that it's wonderful. And I think that any place where a person can be themselves at any age is a great environment.
And the gays love some lycra and spandex.
Oh, totally. I mean,
So I can't see why it wouldn't be popular.
Wearing it under my pants right now.
The percentage of the drag arts at FlameCon is probably going to be a little higher than
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Sure.
These are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. Our anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ family.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform. Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must be able to tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Jeff Oliverio, and I thank you for joining us on behalf of my fellow LGBTQ anchors here at Queer News Tonight, Patrik Gallineaux and Brian Bender. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. Into our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a good night.
Good night.